It's good to be able to come here and wear a suit. No, well, yes, and it's due to the fact that I can now fit it without being too uncomfortable. So it's nothing. I'm not trying to emulate Gordon. Shall we start by just reading the Bible? So I'd like to. I've got three passages I'd like to work from. There's Deuteronomy chapter 34, and if I just give you a bit of the history of where I believe this message came from, as you'll know, I was in hospital just before Christmas, and unlike my last venture into the National Health Service, this venture was done wholly drugs-free. Other than antibiotics, I had nothing to addle my mind and nothing to allow me to pass the time faster. Morphine was denied me. The only thing I got was Pt1 to take away the itching. And you'll understand that, and it was non-drowsy Pt1, I might add. So that I spent a week and a half in hospital, totally aware and conscious of my surroundings. Not only that, but there was no television in the room that I was in, and the bed was broken and stuck in a kind of V. So it wasn't the most comfortable of periods in hospital. But I believe, looking back now, that was probably for a reason. Because I spent a lot of time on my own, and it was in the infectious diseases ward, and I was in a room on my own. The nurses would come in to take my blood pressure and then leave. So I really looked forward to visits for a change. And thank you for visiting me when you did. But I believe that God gave me something when I was in that this time. Last time he saved my life. This time I saved my life as well. But there was something that struck me out of that visit, and I got something from it. And I have to admit that standing here about to tell you, it scares me. Because the responsibility that I have as somebody telling you this means that it's all the more that I have to live towards it. And that's what I believe is, I'm about to say, is a hard one. It was hard for me to take on board. And my wife says I'm just grumpy just now, but trust me, that it's been a hard journey to take on this one. So that's the history, and that's really where it comes from. So if we start by reading Deuteronomy chapter 34. We're just going to do the whole chapter, but it's okay, it's just a small chapter. Deuteronomy chapter 34. Then Moses climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the top of Pisgah, across from Jericho. There the Lord showed him the whole land, from Gilead to Dan, all of Naphtali, the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, and the whole region from the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, as far as Zoar. Then the Lord said unto him, This is the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, when I said, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes. But you will not cross over into it. And Moses, the servant of God, died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. He buried him in Moab in the valley opposite Beth Peor, but to this day no one knows where his grave is. Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. The Israelites grieved for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days, until the time of weeping and mourning was over. Now Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom, because Moses had laid his hand on him. So the Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded Moses. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all those signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his officials and to his whole land. For no one has ever shown the mighty power or performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of all Israel. Then can we turn over just to the next book, Joshua chapter 7. Verse 6. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down on the ground before the ark of the Lord, remaining there till evening. The elders of Israel did the same and sprinkled dust on their heads. And Joshua said, Alas, sovereign Lord, why did you ever bring this people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites, to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of Jordan. Pardon your servant, Lord. What can I say, now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? The Canaanites and the other people of the country will hear about this, and they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. What then will you do for your own great name? The Lord said to Joshua, verse 10, Stand up. What are you doing down there on your face? Israel has sinned. They have violated my covenant, which I commanded them to keep. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen, they have lied. They have put them with their own possessions. That is why the Israelites cannot stand against their enemies. They turn their backs and run because they have been made liable to destruction. I will not be with you any more unless you destroy what among you is devoted to destruction. And down at verse 20, Achan replied, It is true, I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. This is what I have done. When I saw in the plunder a beautiful robe from Babylonia, 200 shekels of silver and a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and took them. They are hidden in the ground inside my tent with the silver underneath it. Verse 24. Then Joshua, together with all Israel, took Achan, son of Zerah, the silver, the robe, the gold bar, his sons and daughters, his cattle, donkeys and sheep, his tent, and all that he had, to the valley of Achor. Joshua said, Why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today. Then all Israel stoned him, and after they had stoned the rest, they burnt them. Over Achan they heaped up a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. Then the Lord turned from his fierce anger. Therefore that place was called the Valley of Achor ever since. And then over into the New Testament, 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16. You're all right. This is just one verse, or two verses. Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple, and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy that person. For God's temple is sacred, and you together are that temple. And then 1 Peter chapter 1. Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to God's elect, exiles scattered through the provinces of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia,